All right, today we're jumping into a timeless story that you might have heard before. It's called The Selfish Giant. Now, on the surface, it feels like a simple fairy tale, but if you look a little closer, it's packed with some really big lessons about kindness, selfishness, and how much a person can truly change.
So, let's start with a question for you to think about as we go through this. What do you think happens when a truly beautiful place, like a garden, is controlled by someone with a really selfish heart? Just keep that idea in the back of your mind. Okay, so our story begins in a place that was, well, pretty much a paradise for kids. This wasn't just any old garden. It was a garden just brimming with joy.
Just try to picture it. A huge garden with grass so soft and green it felt like a carpet. The trees were tall, the flowers were beautiful, and every single afternoon, right after school, all the kids from town would run there to play. It was their special spot.
And you can just feel how happy they were, right? The garden was more than just a pretty place. It was alive with the sounds of their games and their laughter. They absolutely loved it, and you know what? It was their joy that made the garden feel so magical.
But as you might have guessed, this perfect, happy scene wasn't going to last forever. The owner of the garden, a giant, was on his way back, and his return was about to change everything.
So, after being away for 7 years, the giant finally comes home. And when he sees these kids playing in his garden, he isn't just annoyed. He is furious. He roars at them, "This is my garden!" And the children, absolutely terrified, just run for their lives. In a heartbeat, his selfishness completely shattered their paradise. To make sure the children never ever came back, he built this massive wall around the garden and put up a sign. Trespassers will be prosecuted. So what does that even mean? Well, it's a super harsh warning. It basically means if you set 1 foot on my property, I'll treat you like a criminal. He wasn't just telling them to stay out, he was threatening them.
And wow, just look at the differences selfishness made. On one side, you have the garden full of life, birds, flowers, laughter. And on the other, after the wall goes up, it's just cold and empty. By walling out the children, the giant basically walled out all the joy. Spring just refused to visit, and only winter, snow, and hail would live there. The garden literally became a mirror of his own cold, lonely heart. So the giant is living all alone in this icy, quiet world that he created. But then one day, after a long, long time, something finally broke through that silence. A tiny little crack of hope. So think about it. After a seemingly endless winter where nothing ever changed, what sound do you think was powerful enough to finally get his attention? It was a bird. Just a single little bird singing right outside his window. The giant rushes to look, and he can't believe his eyes. The children had found a tiny hole in his wall and snuck back inside. And here's the amazing part. Wherever a child was sitting, the trees around them were blossoming and spring was returning. And that's when it finally hit him. He hadn't been keeping out trespassers. He had been keeping out happiness. The garden needed the children to truly be alive. And that realization, it changed everything. Seeing the children and seeing the life and beauty they brought back with them, the giant's selfish, icy heart finally started to melt. And his transformation wasn't slow or gradual. It happened right then and there. The moment his heart melted, he took action. He went outside and with his own giant hands, he knocked that wall down for good. He told the children that the garden was their home now too. And from that day forward, he wasn't the scary owner anymore. He was their friend who played with them every single day. So years and years go by. The giant gets very old, too weak to play anymore. But he's perfectly happy just watching the children in his garden. Then, one winter morning, he sees a special little boy he had helped long ago.
a boy who has strange marks on his hands and feet. The boy tells him they are the wounds of love, and says he has come to take the giant to his garden, which he calls paradise. Later that afternoon, the children find the giant lying peacefully under a tree, covered in beautiful white blossom. It's a sad ending, but also a really beautiful one. It's the end of a powerful journey. So, after all that, what are the big lessons we can pull from this story? What did the giant really teach us?
Well, I think there are a few big things. First, and this is the main one, generosity brings so much more joy than selfishness ever could. The giant was miserable when he was alone, but found real happiness when he shared everything. Second, we see the amazing power of compassion. The children's presence literally transformed not just his garden, but his entire being. And finally, it's all about adaptability. The giant had to completely tear down his old beliefs and his old walls to build a much happier life.
And that really brings us to the last thing I want to leave you with. The giant built a physical wall out of stone, sure, but he also had invisible walls up, walls of anger and loneliness and selfishness. And this story makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of walls in our own lives are just waiting for us to tear them down?